every show we almost kind of treat like it's our most important show ever, and maybe it's our last show ever. And so we just go out for blood, and we we leave it all out there. You know, we've never phoned it in. We've never treated something like, let's just get paid and get out of here. We've always just thought like, this is it, boys. We better get out there and do it.
We listen to this stuff. When I tell you, dude, like before the show, we're listening to Lit. You know, and
it's funny. Before the show in our dressing room, we're listening to the country. Just because you're in a band and just because you're on MTV or whatever doesn't mean that you don't go through the same life stuff that everybody else is going through. It's just that you're doing it kind of under a spotlight. Sure. You know, you're going through, you're losing somebody, or you're going through a divorce. You know, you're not going to walk into Carson Daly on TRL and he's like, so what are you guys up to? We're like, well, you know, if you really want to know, I mean, shit's really hitting the fan at home.
You asked.
The Try That in a Small Town podcast begins now.
We've got the usual suspects. Halo, right next to me.
Feeling good.
I'm ready. Really close.
Really close.
I got Thrash, I got TK, and tonight, this is awesome. I can't wait. I know. It's especially cool for Tully and I. Like, he's become a friend, but we were fans originally from the band and guitarist of Lit. It is Jeremy Popoff.
Yo.
Let's
go.
Come on.
Look at him.
Good to see y'all.
Fantastic.
Looking good, my man.
Yeah,
Dude.
thank you, brother.
You
Likewise.
You don't change.
You don't change.
Change on the inside.
Wow. We're going to go deep right now.
Yeah. No, it's good to see you guys.
You too, man. Thank
Sitting
you
here
for
with
doing
some
this.
legends. I love it. I love it.
We were just talking about this. Me and Kurt were talking about this. The first time we were a huge fan. You're what? Place in the Sun came out in '99, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think in 2000, we think it's 2000, but you guys came to town probably for some sort of show for the radio station, 1029 maybe. But it was around this time of year. And we'd been listening to that album on repeat.
Oh.
We were on the road.
Oh, yeah.
We were fans.
We were cranking this stuff up before
Huge.
we played it was just great, melodic rock and roll.
Thank you.
And we went down and saw you guys at a place. It's gone now, but it was called 328 Performance Hall. And
Where was that?
man,
It was right there on 4th Avenue, I think, on the north, or is that north side?
Just outside
going
of
towards
downtown,
back to the interstate. But it was cool. So that was like a 2000. That came out in '99, and of course, everybody knows the hit, "My Own Worst Enemy,"
Yep.
which is actually weird to say. It's probably a multi-generational hit. Do you find that not more people, but there's a new generation of people that have come to know the song?
We've been noticing in the last couple of years, I've really noticed there's like kids in the front row, and it's flashback because it's like 15, 16-year-old girls singing all the words to the songs. And I'm like, whoa, this is 25 years ago. So I guess their parents must have turned them on to some rock and roll along the way, you know. And it's like, and we're seeing a lot
You're
of
welcome.
Yeah, it's your daughter.
I got 2 daughters, man.
But it's for a lot of reasons. I mean, you know, one of the first things was like Guitar Hero and Rock Band, you know, getting in on that in that sort of early 2000s when rock started to kind of get away from rock. And and I was worried. I was like, man, no kids are going to be asking for a Les Paul for Christmas, you know, because there was no guitar in rock for a while.
Oh, man.
And here comes this video game, and it was just like swept everybody. And we were lucky enough to get on that. So that turned on another generation of fans. And then now it's kids, and it is multi-generational. It's crazy.
Dude, it's one of those things, like I kind of feel this way in a very separate way, but you know, you go down to Lower Broadway and you're going to hear Hicktown or something, right? You're just going to hear that. Another one of the songs you're going to hear is My Own Worst Enemy. And there was a viral thing. When was that? A couple of years ago, you and AJ got up and somebody was playing it. What club was that at?
That was at 12:30.
Okay, at 12:30. Somebody's playing it. You guys
missed that.
it's fantastic. But is that crazy to you? Like, you probably don't go down there much, but if you do, you hear that song all the time.
It is crazy. And And that happens a lot. Not if one of us, I mean, I've been brought up to do it a few times, and so is my brother. But when we're together, it's like it's for sure going to happen. Right. It's for sure going to love it.
It's true, though, what you say when you, I remember a couple years ago, I came home, my son plays guitar, and I walk into the house randomly, and I walk in and I hear, dun, 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 dun. I'm like, this is wild. And you're right. They're rediscovering all the music.
And I think you're about to touch on this, and Jeremy did too. Maybe we'll just go there. Like, rock music has pretty much gone away, which I think is why I still listen to classic rock, and then, of course, rock from the 90s and 2000s. It's like, besides, I don't know, Foo Fighters, like, who are the rock bands that are carrying on the legacy?
Back, though. On satellite radio, I listen to Octane on satellite radio, and there's a lot of young bands that are trying to revive it, and there's a lot of kids loving it. I think it's gonna. I really do. I think it's. And
it might be, but like I was thinking
guitar
of this
wise,
one,
it's coming back.
I was thinking of this when Jeremy was talking. Like, I was thinking, who are the kids? Like, I grew up and I heard Van Halen or anybody like that, and it's like you had so many guitar heroes. First of all, I want to ask like who your guitar heroes were, but who are the kids listening to today? Like, who do they go, oh my God, I want to be that?
It's probably why they're rediscovering the older stuff.
I know.
That's right. My daughters did. They went back.
There's a couple bands that I like from the last 5 or 6 years, like Highly Suspect. I think they're kind of cool.
Yeah, they're cool.
Like they're kind of, they've been around 6 years or a little longer. I don't know, somewhere in there. And my son turned me on to them, and a couple of bands from one from California called the Bad Sons. They were kind of cool, but you guys kind of set the bar for like writing really cool melodic rock songs.
Yes.
Like we used to, we listened to this stuff. When I tell you, dude, like before the show, we're listening to Lit, and
it's funny. Before the show in our dressing room, we're listening to country.
It's cool how that happens though. Cause we come here and we start writing country stuff, but I'm listening to you and your brother and I'm getting inspired by you guys. Y'all may be getting inspired by
it was
some
well-written songs.
But I'm getting inspired by you guys because your brother's a hell of a singer, and I'm listening. And
there's so many hooks.
I'm just going.
There's so many hooks in your guys' music: guitar hooks, vocal hooks, just the whole thing.
A ton of them.
And for those of you out there listening who have never seen these guys play live, go see them play live. That was the thing that always got us. We've seen you guys a few times, and you guys, man, I think that's why you're still doing it at such a high level. We talked about it a little bit ago. You're playing a lot of shows a year for a reason, because you've always brought quality to the stage, a great show. I don't think you can have a career this long without doing that. I think people fall off. You know what I mean? And I'm sure the fans, you still feel that out there.
Oh yeah,
playing music.
I think we've always kind of gone out every show. We almost kind of treat like it's our most important show ever, and maybe it's our last show ever. And so we just go out for blood, and we leave it all out there. We've never phoned it in. We've never treated something like, let's just get paid and get out of here. We've always just thought like, this is it, boys. We better get out there and do it. And we're just so like grateful and humbled the fact that we're still doing it. Not that we had anything else planned to do, at this point, but it is crazy that I look around and I just see all my guys, and we're all, I just turned 53. My bass player's 52. My brother's 51, and we're jumping off shit. And I'm like, oh shit, careful, dude.
That's to be commended, dude.
Thanks,
that y'all have been hanging that long, that your ligaments are still intact.
Yeah, I know.
For the most part.
Well, that we know of.
It's to be commended. That y'all have hung in there and you haven't hung it up yet.
I tell you, that's something to be said for that. I'm looking at the drum riser these days, thinking twice about jumping off that thing.
Yeah, ain't no jumping in our show.
Step off.
Do I step off it? Yeah,
like a gentleman.
What was really cool though? Great memory for us, I know. So we met you so long ago, but then you called up and you had us go in and we cut some of your country songs together at big studios. with TW Engineering.
Jeez.
And you guys wrote, and I think we're, like country-esque type songs. And it was fantastic. What a great time for us.
So what year was that? Because I don't remember.
This had to be
05,
06. I think it was 06, 07.
Maybe, yeah, right around there.
I think it was.
Is that when you first started kind of coming to Nashville a little bit in that era?
I think my first riding trip to Nashville was 05, early 05. And I was kind of going through my first midlife crisis.
Your first midlife?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I think I went through 2. That was the first one. But I was sort of, we were talking earlier about guitar and rock and all this stuff. And I was becoming disenchanted with rock that was coming out. And I was feeling a little bit like there was like a vacancy that I wasn't doing for me what it was doing before. And I was feeling creatively like a little bit stifled. And I kind of came out here not really knowing what to expect, but I was like, I need to do something else. I need to, so I started diving into country music, and which sort of came natural because when my brother and our dad was a radio DJ when we were kids, and for our whole lives, and he was a top 40 radio DJ, but his first couple gigs were country radio. We didn't know the difference. We were just little kids, and I didn't know Waylon Jennings and Kenny Rogers was country, and I didn't know that. It
was just music.
I just like songs,
Yeah.
And so I kind of came full circle when I started coming out here, and I realized like, oh wait, I have some of this in my blood, But the very first trip I took out here, my very first writing session was with Jeffrey Steele.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And we wrote this great song, and then I remember a couple of weeks later, like Faith Hill put it on hold. And I was like, this is easy.
Let's move to Nashville.
It's funny though about you though. I remember we wrote. You haven't written in a long time, but years ago we wrote, and you're a great writer. Like the thing, we've written with some guys in the rock world many times, and it's not always that way. It's different writing for country. It just is. It's different writing for rock.
Yeah.
I wrote with Edwin McCain one time, and it was completely different.
I wrote with Rich Robertson one time for the Black Crowes, and he laid there and fell asleep on the couch. So
was it just you and him, or was there somebody else there?
No, David Fanning was there.
Yeah.
So we're just sitting there. I mean, not bashing on Rich, a great guitar player, but it's like, man, we got to write some words. These words have to make a sense too, which is the thing. But you've got that. Like I remember writing, thinking, this guy can write rock songs and country songs. It's a great,
thanks, man.
Great weapon to have.
Well, I was also
And by the way, you don't dive into country music; you kind of belly flop into country music.
Yeah, you throw it in head first.
It's more.
I did a little. I did some homework and research though too. The last thing I wanted to do was be this knucklehead from L.A. Rock guy coming into Nashville acting like he knew what was up. I was very respectful, I think, to the culture and to the, I knew that everybody I was busting their ass too, so I didn't want to come in. My success with Lit allowed me to get into some rooms with some great people at first, Jamie Johnson and Steele and a bunch of others, but
I never got a phone call, by the way.
You were untouchable. My people didn't know how to get all there. But yeah, dude, I think it just I took it seriously. I think that was and I fell in love with it. I mean, honestly, I really fell in love with Nashville. I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with the writers and the musicians and all that. And
how was the business different from LA and Nashville? Was the business like different as far as the way they didn't pitch songs in LA? I know there wasn't a bunch of songwriting communities out there.
No, there wasn't really a bunch of any communities out there. I mean, we're from Orange County, but we were from like North Orange County, and then there were South Orange County, and then there was LA, and
was it shocking when you got here as far as the way the business was run?
Well, the business of songwriting, what tripped me out at first was, my first trip out here. Luckily, my first one was with Steele, and he doesn't like to start till about 2 or 3.
That's right.
But like the 11 a.m. rights, I was like, what are you guys talking about? You can't drink at 11 a.m. But, I came from a sweaty warehouse in Anaheim where we used to, we would go in at 6 or 7 p.m. and we'd be there till 1, 2 in the morning.
Way to write. Yeah.
Drinking, natural lights and just jamming and writing and or coming up with an idea and then bringing it into that environment. So the idea of getting together at noon, that was a new discipline for me, but then that's how we do it now. My rock band, Lit, when we get together now to write, it's scheduled. And it's usually 1 or 2, but the idea of getting together in the daytime at someone's house and like sitting around and doing it, that was something we learned here, which changed.
It matured you.
At some point, it is like you kind of have to plan it and get your head in that space and go to work and go to do it and show up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and get started at the crack of noon. Crack of noon. Get going. And I was going to ask you with how many songs you've written and recorded, have you guys ever had a lawsuit on any of your songs that you've been a part of, a writer of? Or
This is a good one.
You got a specific reason?
Not yet.
So I was wondering if because you've got that song, Yeah, 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 right? I was curious if you guys ever came after Joe Nichols for recording a song, just a third of it, just called Yeah, in 2013. And I was wondering if it crossed your minds. It's like, that bastard stole our title.
Nope.
No?
Is there any specific writer on that song that you're...
Ashley Gordy's one of them. I'm trying to get him to listen to the podcast. Yeah. He'll listen now.
Is he not on every song?
Yeah, he's on almost every. Yeah,
he is actually.
So one thing I want to touch on, and I hope it's okay, is we talk about similarities that our two bands. We always felt that kind of kinship with you guys. Different genres, but same mentality, I think. You lost your original drummer not long out. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2009, somewhere around there when he had passed. I could be mistaken, but I feel like it was somewhere in there. And so we met you and probably started hanging out with you in 2006 or something. And so, you guys moving on from that, past that point, had to be challenging. Because I think about, our band, and if Rich wasn't here, I don't know how I would do that. You know what I mean? So I wanted to ask you if it's okay. How, I can barely talk about it because I can't imagine it.
Yeah. Rich actually did a show with us. Remember when he filled in for us one time?
Yeah, I came down to that.
That's cool.
Down there across from the stadium.
Yeah.
What was that club?
Yeah.
It's
Limelight or something, I think it was called. It was a crazy time because the first thing that happened was shortly after, I was building my bar in 2005. We started building it, and then I started coming here, and then my parents were in an accident where they got hit by a drunk driver on a motorcycle.
Oh my God.
And we had to press pause on our careers and take care of our mom for several months. My first trip to Nashville was during that chaos.
Jeez.
And then fast forward a couple of years, then our drummer gets sick, and we were just kind of like, wow, what? We're just getting thrown all these, curveballs. And our drum tech at the time, this kid Nathan, he was, him and Al were real close, and he was the tech, and he just, he was there ready to just hop in the seat and take over once we gave him the green light to do that. But at first we were kind of just like, we were supposed to go on tour with Kiss in Europe when all that went down. And then, that didn't happen. And, how do you, he'd still for sure 100% be in our band if he was still here. But, how do you build something for that many years with this gang of kids that didn't know shit? And then one's gone. But we were like, at some point, obviously we had to take a couple months to just digest. But we were like, man, and it sounds cheesy. Everyone says this, but it's sort of like, he would really be pissed if
for sure.
we didn't carry on.
He built it with you guys. So
he built it. Absolutely.
He wouldn't want that to not exist, but it's still, for me, I can just I'd imagine what that's like if I looked around and didn't see any of my brothers next to me. How long it would take me to just be able to just perform like I always did. You know what I mean? And so I commend you guys for, it's not easy to do. Because people don't understand, you spend more time with your band than anybody else.
Oh, we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
I see Tully way more than I see my wife, still to this day, even though our schedule is way less. And maybe that's a good way to get back to the beginning, too, because people think it's an overnight success because My Own Worst Enemy blows up and all of a sudden you're gone and you're world famous. But there's that, maybe 10 years of grinding. And you guys formed in high school? Is that right? The whole band?
High school, late 80s. Mm-hmm. Started out on the Sunset Strip, and
So you're doing the Whiskey and Roxy and all that kind
all
of
those,
stuff.
Troubadour.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And y'all had to go through, was it Derek Thomas and like his passing? And I mean, you've had to endure a lot of tragic stuff, people you've known.
Looking back on it now, it's sort of, I guess, just because you're in a band and just because you're on MTV or whatever doesn't mean that you don't go through the same life stuff that everybody else is going through. It's just that you're doing it kind of, I don't want to say like under a spotlight, but kind of under a spotlight.
Sure.
You're going through, you're losing somebody, or you're going through a divorce, or you're having a kid, or all these things where, and then you have to go like, I got to go to work, I got to go play, or I got to go do this thing, and you're not going to walk into Carson Daly on TRL and he's like, so what are you guys up to? We're like, well, if you really want to know, shit's really hitting the fan at home.
You asked.
But the MTV thing, and I see you're sporting the MTV shirt. You guys were a part of the MTV heyday
Big
when
time.
it was at its biggest point, TRL. Spring Break, right? Did you guys do that? And then what I didn't know, which I saw today, is you did the MTV Cribs. Which is like a total legit move, right?
I remember when you did that.
So talk a little bit about the MTV
funny,
days.
Now that I'm in my 50s, we just did HGTV.
What? Did you really?
So my house was just on HGTV a couple weeks ago.
I'm surprised I haven't seen it because we do
Christina
watch all
in the Country, it's called.
Oh,
amazing.
my gosh.
And it's essentially Cribs for old people.
So like me. Dude, full circle or half circle maybe. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you like filming that, like doing that? The TV stuff, all the things you like
We
doing
loved
that?
it because we grew up on it, and we went from in 98, watching TRL to 99 we were on it, same thing with like late night TV and all that stuff. It's like that was our stuff, we were products of that. So to be on it, I remember the first time we went to MTV and, we're with Matt Pinfield on 120 Minutes and he's asking us questions, but we're like, wait, hold on, dude. We need to ask you some questions. Like, this is crazy that we're sitting here. And he knew more about our band than we did, and it was bananas. And the Spring Break thing, crazy.
I heard you talking a little bit about that because who else was on that show? It was like Jay-Z, right? And Beyonce and...
Dude, we were there because they weren't dating yet.
You didn't go to a Diddy party.
Oh, stop.
Never went to one of those.
Okay, just
But we were
there
there.
right now.
We were there when Jay-Z and Beyonce first started hanging out. And we were all on a plane together flying back out of there. And we were all sitting in first class. So I remember we were walking and Jay-Z was right in front of me. And it was one of the older planes where you actually walk on and make a left to go to first class.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And I just remember I was the guy right behind Jay-Z and he walked up and the flight attendant was kind of pointing to the right and he goes, if I ain't making a left, I ain't getting on this thing. And
power move.
And he was sitting, he was sitting one seat behind me and my guitar tech was sitting directly next to him. And at one point he fell asleep and his head was leaning on Jay-Z's shoulder.
That's amazing.
But Beyonce was sitting so we were in like row 2 and he was in like row 3 and Beyonce was in like row 7 and they were just flirting and talking back and forth the whole flight back. They weren't together yet. It was
So you were there at the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah. I like to kind of think we had a small part in that.
Yeah, of course.
For sure. The whole dynasty. For sure.
So, so you guys, success comes, first album, Place in the Sun. So now after that, I wanted to ask you, because we never talked about this, and wanted to ask you, because as a band, this is a big moment. Like all of a sudden you're going to start opening up for some people that you used to like. Who did you open up for after you guys, started touring and having success that you're like, because I know we have those moments where we're like, wow, we're out doing it now. All of a sudden you're in arenas and you're opening up and it feels amazing. So do you have any great memories of that? Who like sticks in your mind back in those days that you guys kind of went on tour with? Or
the first band that took us on tour doing arenas and sheds was Offspring.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
And we were, they were from Orange County as well, and so were we. But the first time we met them was at the first amphitheater show that we were scheduled to play on the tour. Same thing with No Doubt. We actually from the same town, and I actually went to the same high school as the drummer, Adrian.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And
that's cool.
We didn't really hang in high. He was a couple years older than me, and I was a long hair rock guy, and he was kind of, the preppy, whatever. But No Doubt was big in Anaheim, and we were just kind of coming up, and we met them for the first time on the first show of that tour, and it's kind of wild. But probably some of the radio festivals,
right,
where we got to really when we got to play a radio festival with Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
And I just remember going, wow.
Yeah.
Like we played our set, ran backstage, took showers, changed, ran out into the crowd to watch.
So you could watch.
I love that.
We were like, we got these passes. It's the best tickets we're ever going to have for STP.
I remember we did that with Kid Rock. We did some festival and we hadn't seen him yet. And we did the exact same thing.
It was a festival,
we went, and we were all like little kids side stage going, oh my God, this is amazing. It's like,
and those guys like STP or like Kid Rock, I remember, and I don't know if this is STP, they're so good.
One of the best.
So
I
good.
love STP.
It is so good musically. Weiland was a complete badass. Just, and when we saw the Kid, I remember we over for Kid Rock. It was like we loved knowing that he's gonna kick our ass tonight. He's kicking our ass right now.
yeah, dude.
You know what I mean? He's kicking our ass right now, and that's as big as anything for us. Like I love that feeling of like, okay, we got some work to do. And I just love that. I remember that watching him though, thinking,
oh yeah,
okay, well we're kind of making it. I think if they were opening for Kid Rock, we're watching them. We have passes. we have these cool passes.
I mean, they can, but
yeah,
they will eventually.
Yeah,
Speaking of STP, that's another band of brothers, right?
Yeah,
and for people that might not know, Lit, obviously the lead singer is your brother. Talk a little bit about that dynamic and how you didn't go the way of Oasis or maybe the Black Crowes, where the tension is high, and it seems like you guys get along. I'm sure you butt heads.
We
a little
definitely
bit.
have our Oasis moments. But we're the only two kids in the family. We're exactly 2 years apart, and we were latchkey kids. Our parents got divorced when we were really young, and we stayed with our dad for a few years, and he was a radio DJ, and so his shift was kind of like afternoons, and so we were latchkey kids. I mean, if you look it up in the dictionary, that was us. We'd stay out riding our bikes until it got dark, and then we'd go home and feed ourselves some top ramen or whatever. Our dad wouldn't get home from work till like 9 or 10 o'clock at night when we were getting ready for bed and stuff. And so we just kind of raised by wolves, we just raised each other and raised ourselves, and we were just doing whatever. And so I think we've just been close just by nature, because that's how we've been our whole life. So
And AJ's such a badass too. What a great voice. Like for what you guys do, all that push and pull is why it's so great. Trust me. I mean, it's the same thing. Like it's like arguments, me and Redmond used to have straight up fist fights, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's like, but I can't exist without him. You know what I mean? I
love Rich. You know, I don't know if I told you guys a story. The first time I ever saw him, I was dating a girl and she was doing a round at like Tenerife or something. And he was playing a cajon.
Yeah. Giving it hell.
Giving it hell.
And afterwards, I told her, I was like, that's one of the best drummers I've ever seen. And she goes, who? I was like, the guy that was just up there playing with you. She goes, the guy that was sitting on that box? I'm like, yeah, I could just tell. And I met him that night. And then I think that's how we all got to work together was I called him up and said, dude, would you play on some sessions? Like if you're not doing, if you're available, whatever. And then he called you guys and we all just got together and
Rich is a straight badass.
But he's one of the best drummers on the planet, hands down.
Yeah, I can't
absolutely
play without him. Like I don't even know what I would do.
And boy, on the cajon, forget it.
No, he's going to give it hell.
Hey, he still does. Even now, like we'll do a lot of semi-acoustic type stuff, like if it's for a radio event or charity event. And he's got this little kit back there, and man, I tell you what, it's amazing what he does.
I don't think I could ever play with him. I did Rich's podcast. And he's playing, and he told me, why don't you do Night Train? So I'm doing it, and he's over there keeping time, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't keep time. I'm not good pocket, because I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to rush. But Rich was so in the pocket. I'm like, it was a struggle.
He's one of the most.
It was so perfect that I couldn't do my thing because he was so good.
Most drummers they do the beat. Rich is musical. There's a distinction between that. He's like one of the most musical drummers that you will ever hear.
He plays it like an instrument.
Yeah.
He's not doing math. He's literally just, he's living the song.
Yeah. I would not be, I tell him this all the time, we hanging out in the bus and having a drink, and I'll be like, man, I wouldn't be half the player I am if I didn't meet you when I was 22 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like for me personally, like I'm, street player, like self-taught,
Same.
Rich has all that sensibility, but it also has all this schooling, and it's just like, it's amazing. I remember one of the first times I played with him, we were rehearsing at a rehearsal studio for something, and I was playing pushing him a little head, and he stops, he goes, do you want to go faster? And I said,
should we put this up a click or two?
Yeah, I said, and then I realized, shit, okay, again, though, Rich needed to be that great to make me better. Like, and even now, like I'm still chasing his, I'm still trying to get to where he is, you know what I mean? And that's why but I can't imagine, it comes back to the thing with the original drummer and how you guys moved on, how you take up those pieces, and I'm just really glad you did, because you guys are out still kicking ass, still kicking all kinds of ass. You guys are playing what we talked about at 60 to 70 shows a year.
God dang, you're grinding, man. Still,
we're going a lot.
That's amazing. Hey,
we've been very fortunate, like we were talking about earlier. Like somehow, I don't know if it was the Nashville influence, but we have managed, we're one of the few rock bands out there still doing it that managed to adopt the country music schedule.
Right. It's so different. Tell people about it.
We leave on a Thursday or Friday. We play on the weekend. We're usually home by dinner on Sunday. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're home with, with the family and at the house. And either, we can write, we can record, or we can do nothing.
Isn't life easier out here?
Life is... It can be, and it is if you make it. It could also be crazy, and there's something going on every single night. And when it really becomes evident is when people come to visit.
Oh, I know. And they're like,
"Man, if you would have got here last night, you could have went to this thing, and you're leaving on this day. Well, the next day this is happening, and everyone's like, God, that's why you got to move here, dude. I don't know what to tell you because it's literally
take me to Broadway."
Right. When we lived in Nashville, when we lived in East Nashville, and it was during COVID, when we relocated here full time, it was right at the beginning of COVID, and we lived painfully close to downtown. You know, we were in East and we were like 15 blocks from the river. And it was hard to say no to people. Well, first of all, people would just stop by the house. And then they'd be like, hey, we're going to Losers tonight. Meet us over there. Now I can go like, well, we're out in Franklin, man. You know, we're home for the night.
Yeah.
When you're like 15 blocks away, they were like, no, dude.
Yeah, you're coming out.
You got a good excuse when you live down here.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to take a break, but I do want to talk about this because you brought up COVID. Real quick, we had Tommy Laren on just a couple weeks ago, and she gave us the brief story. I don't think it's when she met you guys, but hanging out with you guys during COVID and your brother getting arrested.
Oh, yeah.
Give everybody the quick story of what happened here.
It was when they were closing the bars at 10 or 11 or something.
They had
because, you know, COVID would go to sleep at 10 or 11.
So you can't pass the virus.
Or it would wake up. You had to hurry up and get out of Losers before COVID came. Right. It was like going to bed before Santa Claus got there, you know?
That's so funny.
And
Dude,
so
that's amazing.
And so we were hanging out one night. And we all went back for several times. Our house, my house, was like the after party house.
Okay.
You know, which whatever. It was during COVID. We're having 30, 40 strangers at the house like multiple nights a week. But one night, my brother had just moved in, just got his house styled in, whatever, and we were all at something, and he was like, "Well, let's do it at my house tonight." I'm like, all right. And that was when that little jackass mayor, the new mayor of Nashville, was around.
Yep.
And he was doing this thing where people were like narking on their neighbors.
Oh,
Yeah, dude, we were just talking about this a couple weeks ago. There were incentives to rat
like,
on your
hey,
neighbor.
is there more than 4 people hanging out? Well, call us and we'll come take care of it. And that's pretty much what happened when my brother's neighbors called and these cops showed up in the backyard. And I think there was...
Hold on, they showed up in the backyard?
In the backyard, yeah.
Super spreader.
SWAT style.
And there was like 10 people out on the deck smoking cigars and cigarettes or whatever, and there was 10 people in the house. And he's got a big house, and they knocked on the door, and he got arrested that night. Had to pay a lawyer and do community service and the whole nine. Yeah,
for having too many people over.
For having more than 6 people or whatever it was, 6 or 8.
What a crazy time! And you know, you guys, we should talk about it at some point. Is you know, when you guys stopped touring, then started again, and the weirdness around touring.
Hey, let's do that. Let's take a quick break first. Right. Let's get to the word from the sponsor. We're here at the Patriot Mobile Studios. We're with Jeremy Popoff from Lit. Hang with us, guys.
Original Brands is starting a new era in American domestic premium beer. Launched on July 4th, 2023, with the mission of promoting patriotism, unity, and the celebration of the adventurous American spirit, Original Glory American Pilsner is the first in the OG line. It's a crisp, refreshing domestic beer. We also introduced OG Light, under 90 calories and only 2 carbs. Join the movement at drinkoriginalbrands.com because freedom is worth drinking to. Drinkoriginalbrands.com.
My name is Glenn Story. I'm the founder and CEO of Patriot Mobile. And then we have 4 principles. First Amendment, Second Amendment, right to life, military and first responders. If you have a place to go, put your money, you always want to put it with somebody that's like-minded. Of course. I think that's the beauty of Patriot Mobile. We're a conservative alternative.
Don't get fooled by other providers pretending to share your values or have the same coverage. Go to patriotmobile.com/smalltown to get a free month of service when you use the offer code SMALLTOWN or call 972-PATRIOT.
All right, this is a Try That in a Small Town podcast. We're coming to you from the Patriot Mobile Studios. We've got Jeremy Popoff from Lit here. What? I know, pretty amazing. Tully, you were just talking about how they dealt with some of the COVID shows. And how long did you guys take off for that?
Did we take off for COVID?
Yeah. And did you do any shows?
We sure did, yeah. We put the word out. We're like, we're good.
So, but like,
you
how
couldn't
long?
promote them. You couldn't advertise them or put them on socials that you were going to go do something. But we did a few, not enough, but we did a few.
In California, or where were you?
I mean, like we did Sturgis.
Oh, you did
during COVID. We did. I think we did 4 or 5. You know, when
so
it was
during that
when
first
it was
year,
gnarly.
2020 or whatever it was. Because we took off the year, right? Because country music shut down.
Well, especially for the way
Well, at the level you guys are at, like we were able to slip in under the radar and go do some random thing somewhere. You know?
Good for you. I mean, what a.
But do you remember the first show we did back at Bonnaroo? Or not, it wasn't Bonnaroo, but it was where they hold Bonnaroo.
Yeah, we did it was where they have Bonnaroo, at Manchester, Tennessee. And it was for a big streaming thing, this worldwide stream. And X amount of people there, right? I can't remember, but they had them in little cages.
Yeah, they had them in literal cages.
And it was so weird.
And only 6 people. Were you there, Jim?
You were there. So what are we doing? What the hell are we doing? It was so awkward. Like
there's only 4 people in a cage or something.
Little animals in each cage. Yeah.
Because again, COVID.
It doesn't jump over the cages.
It doesn't jump over the cages. And as long as you only have 4 people in there, you're good.
Yeah. Bro. Looking back on it, what a shit show.
Do you remember the one little show we did? It was some weird ass live stream.
Oh my God. We did it. We did a virtual show. And it was us, and we're on stage staring at 80 or 100 little TVs. And each little TV had 2 or 3 people looking
in their pajamas on their couch.
Literally much, exactly.
Holding up signs going.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what. And we're sitting there playing. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
We're done here.
We did one of those. We did one
that.
at Brooklyn Bowl here in Nashville.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. And I just remember going, this is cross between sound check and shooting a video, and both of those suck.
Oh yeah, yeah. We would do corporate shows just as a songwriter around like a Bluebird thing, except it's just online. You're just looking at a 15-inch screen, somebody's laptop, and you're playing. You're taking turns playing your hits, telling the stories behind it, and trying to be funny and stuff. But there's nobody's laughing.
The money's
right?
the same.
So,
I'll do it.
And it's
I'll
like,
do it
it's
in
like
front of a.
you're
I don't
just
care.
assuming.
I don't know.
But then I did learn, and this is where you definitely are completely different than Neil, because even though we live 9 minutes apart, he loves to write via Zoom. You do not. I hate it. You hate it.
I got to tell you,
I'm out on Zoom.
The only good thing that came out of COVID for me was Zoom writing.
It's that he never had to see me in person
coming up
except
here.
for this.
Y'all can say what you want. I love coming up here.
The worst.
In my golf clothes and clicking on my computer. That way, if somebody's talking, I can mute them and I can think. Y'all know how I am when I write. I mean,
I'm good with that.
I got to think a little bit.
I'm kind of that way too.
Zoom writing, I still do it today.
My brother does this thing where when we're writing, he'll when he's trying to think of something, he'll go, oh, like, dude, shut up. You know what? Wait till you have something and then say it. But like, how am I supposed to think of something if you're over there humming some shit that doesn't exist? Like,
you know what's funny though?
Halo loves it. He loves the fact that I love Zoom writing now.
I don't think you can write with people. You got to find those people to write with that you're comfortable in the silence.
Yeah.
Some people get really awkward in that moment.
Same as marriage.
I was just going to say that. It's like finding the right woman.
Nice,
It is.
Solid point.
If you can't be comfortable being quiet, just sitting there,
just sit
you
there.
got a problem.
And it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I was driving back from Gatlinburg a couple days ago, 4-hour drive, and me and my wife, there's probably 2 hours went by where we didn't say shit.
You got the right one.
I was like, God, I love you.
Yeah.
Thank you just for not thinking of dumb shit.
That's amazing.
You can't.
That's amazing.
Yeah, same. One thing I wanted to talk about and go. I'm going to rewind because we never talked about this either. So you guys, you get your deal, right? And you start. How many songs did you have? Like, were you of the first album? Like when you got signed, like had you already written? Like Miserable and some of that stuff. Because that's my favorite one.
I love Miserable.
It's
me too, because of the video.
Absolutely, dude.
You know what's funny is that's Enemy's the biggest one, obviously, and that's the one people know us by. But I've found that songwriters gravitate towards Miserable more.
We've referenced it a lot.
I have in numerous songs used that thought process lyrically. What you guys did with that song, it's brilliant. It's so hooky. And that's what I love about your music. It's just hook after hook, guitar or vocal, whatever it is. But so you had a few of those songs when you got your deal?
Well, we had a record out. We signed an independent deal and we put a record out called Tripping the Light Fantastic. Mm-hmm. So, when they say you have 10 years to write your first record, Well, we had already done that. So Place in the Sun, we wrote like in a year. And they were songs that we were like writing on, that we were just touring around playing in front of nobody in our warehouse in Anaheim, just writing these songs, you know, getting turned down by every label a million times. We were getting bigger in Southern California, more, you know, selling out clubs and getting attention, but still getting the word no every time. Every single label passed on My Worst Enemy, passed on Miserable. Dude. There was a demo that had 4 songs on it. Those are 2 of them. Even, you know, we eventually signed with RCA, but even RCA passed on us.
Wow.
The same A&R guy that signed us, well, 2 of them.
I don't hear it.
They passed us. They passed on us. You know? So it's crazy.
Crazy.
We did those showcase things you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
In LA, you know, you do them like at the Viper Room at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
They'd parade out, you know, half a dozen of these suits, you know. And, and we got to the point where finally, like, we got told no so many times. We were like, man, screw this. If they want to see us, they come out to Anaheim and come to our shitty warehouse, and crack open a natural light and see what it's all about. But we had I don't know how many songs. We've never been a band that like went in and had 30 songs and narrowed it down to 12. We don't even finish writing a song if we're not stoked on it. And if we're stoked on it,
I love that.
Yeah.
Then we're going to finish it and record it, you know?
So you go in, what was the process of making that first album? Like, you go in, how long, like, cause it's so different how, like our stories, we were just talking about it before we started the podcast, how parallel, you know, we got passed on. I've lost count, you know, like you said, we're getting turned down and you're playing the songs that became hits and they're saying, don't hear a hit.
Yeah.
You know, but the difference in how the albums are made is probably different. So you guys go in, how long did you take to record? Did you record it in different sections or did you record it within?
So that was our first time. We learned during the process about budgets and things like that.
Ooh.
We went to NRG Studios, you know, where everybody was making records in LA at the time. And we, you know, we were there for like 2 months or like, I don't know, 6-7 weeks.
Right.
And just, you know, lived down the street at the Oakwood Apartments. And we would just show up every day and, you know, about maybe 4 or 5 days in, we realized we had a food budget. And then we realized then we learned we had runners. We were like, whoa, there's runners here. There's like dudes in the sprint position just ready to go get shit. So by a weekend, man, we were like vets. We were just like, hey, man, we're going to get some Chinese chicken salads today. And we're going to need another handle of whatever.
Then you learn
a couple more cases of that beer. And I mean, we were playing, we were so ready at that point. 10 years and we were so like, we rehearsed 4 or 5 nights a week and played shows on the weekends for so long that we were just like, dude, just cut us loose. Tell us where do you want us? Like, I'm ready. My amps are right there. My guitar's right here. Like, let me know when it's my turn. And
what's your favorite song from that first record?
From Place in the Sun?
Yeah.
Man, Enemy is just still,
right.
It's the one, you know?
Yeah.
It bought me a few houses and a couple of pools.
There you go.
You know, whatever. Best Is Yet to Come Undone is one that I always loved. There were some weird ones on there, like a ballad like Perfect One, you know, was one that like,
great song,
you know, was a little weird for what it was. You know, people know that album for like a handful of songs, but there were some deep cuts on there that went into our roots. And
who mixed that album? It's still a great sounding album.
Brian Malouf mixed it. And he actually, we had him mix the re-records of it. So now today, when you hear My Worst Enemy, probably for like the last 10 years, when you hear that song on TV or in a movie or a video game, it's our version.
Oh, good move.
And you can't tell the difference because we A-beat it and made sure it was like,
our producer
can't
Jim,
say no to it.
Our producer Jim just texted and he said it's on a Taco Bell commercial right now.
Oh, is that out?
I guess so.
You're making money right now,
it's
bro.
It's going to be a good Christmas.
Yeah.
Do you guys own your own publishing on it and all of that?
Yeah, we've sold some pieces of it.
Yeah, right.
You know,
but you did at the time.
Franklin ain't cheap, dude.
Yeah.
The thing I loved about you guys the most is through all the years when y'all decided to go a semi-different direction musically, you nailed it every freaking time.
Oh man, thank you.
No, you really did. Because I couldn't wait to hear from this record to this record, and I'm listening to that. I'm going, oh my God, they figured. Well, these guys can do it all.
They stayed on brand though too. That was
that's
best
great.
thing.
That's a great point.
Like that's how you. I wish young artists would key in on this more. It's like you're going to have peaks and valleys. You guys had a super high peak, and you know how that is, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, you come down a little bit, and you'll have
Absolutely.
other peaks. But what young artists do, or new artists, and some artists that may have quick success, is when that valley comes, they chase what they think they need to be, and just stay to your brand, stay what you're good at. And you guys have done that, and you hold on to your fans, and you bring a few more in, maybe not at the pace you did in the heyday. But
well, when you don't, we woke up one day and there was, radio was pretty much gone. I mean, I say that Mama We're Sending Me gets played on the radio more today than it did when it was a number one hit.
Wow.
Because when it was a number one hit, it was on modern rock and active rock. Now it's on those, but it's also on pop. It's also on classic rock. Right. It's also on,
that's a good point.
Adult contemporary. So spins wise, it gets more spins per week today than it did 25 years ago when it came out. And it's it's always done this. So it's wild. It's wild to and we're very grateful again because we grew up in radio.
Yeah.
And we all did. Yeah.
To still be on the radio is cool because you see a lot of bands now. It's like, it's all about TikTok. It's all about social media. It's all about, and I see, God bless them, but like bands, they get them few million streams on Spotify and they're making plaques. I'm like, bro, that plaque costs more than you made. I don't know. What are you doing?
Well, they do that. And what I don't think people realize. So I love that reference to new band, new artist, whatever. They million streams. A million streams a week.
Holding your hand.
Just
reaching out.
It's okay.
There's a lot of love in this room.
Very comfortable.
We're having a moment over here.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But
it's the holidays.
I still like love radio. And I know, especially in country, we still need, radio is very vital, because an artist that they're streaming, say 700,000 a week on a song, if they go out and try to sell a hard ticket,
I know.
Not so much.
I remember getting a call from my publisher, said, man, your song streamed 100,000 this week. And I'm going, oh, thanks, man. I made $23 this week. Thanks. That's where we're at as songwriters without radio.
Yeah.
That's where we're at as far as making a living.
But even as the artist, so that stream does not translate to a ticket. They don't even know what a stream still means, like the business wise. Like it counts, but if you're an artist and you're streaming, say in Chicago, you're streaming 200,000 a week in this market. Doesn't mean you can go to Joe's Bar in Chicago and sell 600 tickets. You might sell 40. So what does that all mean? And that's for radio. For me, still it makes it concise. You can see difference if you got a top 5 at radio. You can see a difference in ticket sales if you play in a club or theater. You can still see it. It's still important.
I think so too. And I have this argument a lot with current industry folks when they tell you like, well, it's all about TikTok. Well, it's all about this. Well, it's all about radio won't touch you unless you're doing this much on streaming. And it's like, that's like telling me like, well, you can't go buy a big screen at Best Buy until somebody steals the one out of your living room. It's like, well, I don't understand.
That's great.
Like, I don't understand it, but again, just I'm grateful that we got to at least catch that wave.
We are too, bro.
Yeah,
we are too.
Absolutely.
We're so grateful that we were.
I mean, who would have thought that 25 years ago, if you said recurrence, that was almost like leftovers.
But that's
like leftovers in the fridge, and now we live off recurrence. It's kind of like Jesus Christ. Thank you.
That's what I want to ask you about because you were talking about some of your songs getting played more now and recurrence to the people listening. that's just older songs that are still bringing money. Because once you get something recorded out on the radio, it's always going to bring you some sort of money. Some of it's really good and some of it's not so good. You might make $80 a quarter or $12,000 a quarter or $20,000 a quarter, whatever. And when you said you're making great recurrent income, that's what makes me envious as a writer, because that's the stuff, like, I want to write things that are timeless, that you continue to get paid on year after year, and your family gets paid on year after year after you're gone and stuff. So It's really cool and encouraging, hearing some of those songs that are making bank now and have an impact now, which is really cool.
It is super cool, and not to sound redundant, but we don't take it for granted. And we know, and we have so many friends that have had hits that are still doing it. They don't have that sort of recurrent love, I think it was just timing. I mean, thank God we got in when we did.
Well, that too, but it is timing, but man.
But I think what you said is important. I think it is important. I think radio, even though, I know that when Enemy came out, there was like 75 alternative stations in the country. Now there's like 25.
Wow.
So having a number one at alternative radio, and it's hard too, even for us, because they're still playing us. It's like an end cap at a grocery store. Like, if you're Charmin, just because you came out with some new toilet paper doesn't mean they're going to give you shelf space. We have a song that's taken up shelf space on the very station and format that we're trying to get new music played on. And they're like, but we're already playing you guys as much as you're going to get. And we're like, well, shit. But check this new song out. Wait till you hear it, man.
Yeah, but the reason Enemy, but the timing was great. But that song would be huge no matter when.
I agree.
Because as a band or artist or writers, you pray and hope that you could be part of one of those.
That's right.
Because you know how it is when you're in the middle of it. Like when Enemy hit, young band, dreams are coming true, and you don't have time to take it in.
No.
Because you're too busy enjoying what you're doing, and you're too busy. We're the same way. At any moment, we're waiting for the rug to be pulled out. That is our mentality. Jason's the same way. Like you said it. Every show, as far as we're concerned, we say it after every show, that could have been it. Just waiting. To be part of a song like that, though, it's like, that's what you hope to be able to do. And that song, it's the song. It's like it could have came out 5 years earlier or later. It's still going to be what it is today.
And that's
that right now.
And that's one of the songs that, and I asked Kurt and Tully this on one of our other episodes, because what y'all do is really cool. Out with Aldine, you're playing, you're on the tour, on the buses and all the stuff. And I asked them one time, I said, do your kids think you're cool? And you and I were talking about your kid, and I'd read a little bit, went to a college in Utah, right? And then they sent you some, can you tell us about that? He'd send some video footage at parties, like 300 kids. Yeah. Tell us about that real quick. I read it was really
I remember
cool
when we first went to visit him, it was Parents and Family Weekend, and he took us to his frat house. And we went in, we met everybody, whatever, and we were walking back out to the car. And on the way out to the car, one of the kids put like a big party speaker in the window, just cranked it up, and the guys were like, ah! And then he would send me videos of them at parties, and the DJs would put it on. And I don't know, I wasn't there, so I don't know if he was like, that's my dad.
He wanted to.
But the word got out, and they were like, Popoff, is that really your dad? And he grew up like same as your kids. He grew up on a tour bus, and he grew up in backstage at venues. He has, country stars and rock stars that he calls uncle. He doesn't know any different.
I think about, look at my kids, and my son's 17 now, and 17 I was playing in bar bands, and thinking, can you imagine like being our kids and like growing up backstage? And that's what they're used to. You know? And it's amazing. God, what a gift to be able to do that. But I mean, can you imagine, I'm thinking to myself, like, imagine being 13, 14, 15, 16, just hanging out backstage,
It's like, amazing. I think his question was like, do your kids think you're cool?
I don't know if he does anymore.
We don't know.
Sometimes it's funny because he makes fun of me like you make fun of your dad,
Yeah.
And I remember one time we were sitting there doing something, and I don't know if he was making fun of something I was wearing or something I was just like, And I mean, you ever watch the Osbournes? Remember when that?
Oh yeah.
So I cuss at my family like that. It's not, it's not for everybody. A lot of people that follow me on Instagram and stuff, they mostly follow me to see the interactions with my wife, and we cuss at each other and we call each other names and stuff. And it's very loving, but it's just, and, but I remember my kid was making fun of me about something, and I was just like, mother. I'm like, kids your age used to try to dress like me.
He did.
They wore flames and shit.
He did the truth.
They had fuzzy dice hanging in their bedroom.
I tell you this, my son, it's so funny. Last night he made a crack like that. He said, we used to try to dress like you. Not anymore.
Ouch.
And I was like, man, I wear black t-shirts and jeans. It's classic. I said it's classic.
Yeah, timeless.
But no one will make you feel more uncool than your children.
That's a fact. That's a
The only
fact.
person I know that can even dent my confidence is my kids.
You know how to stop that, right? You put them in a song. I put both my girls in songs. They were hits. So now I'm cool all of a sudden.
Yeah, but then later you got to play them at a wedding and then you cry.
Right.
Yeah.
And it backfires. That's right.
Jeremy, I got to ask you this, a little bit of a turn, but it's really interesting. And we've said this before, like you're a friend of ours, but when you start doing a little research on your guest, you're like, oh shit, I didn't know that. So, yeah.
Yeah, right.
No, this is, I don't know how to label this, but so first thing you see is Jeremy Popoff, born September 11th. That is your birthday.
Yeah.
But even more unique than that, you were actually in New York or across the river when this event happened.
Yeah.
Can you tell people a little bit about that night or that day?
Well, so it was my 30th birthday and also the first night of the Atomic Tour. And it was at Birch Hill in New Jersey. It was the show number 1 of the Atomic Tour.
You're kidding. So I didn't know that part.
And so the night before, on the 10th, the label people and just the band, everybody we went out in the city and we partied till like 3-4 in the morning and went out to dinner and we just went to bars and we were, tearing it up for my birthday. And then probably about 3 o'clock in the morning, I called our tour manager because they were over in Jersey. Because, that's where the buses and trucks park and the hotels are cheaper. It's easier.
Yeah, of course. You're staying in Jersey.
Yeah. And I remember calling our tour manager going, hey, man, get us a room at the W. We're going to stay in town tonight. And he's like, no, dude. He's like, no, come. You already got rooms over here. Like, you're coming back. And I was like, man, that. We're staying at the W. Well, anyway, we went back to Jersey.
Yeah. Of course you did.
And I'll never forget, I was, probably 3 hours into my sleep and my bass player, before everyone had iPhones and stuff, he's ringing my room phone and I answer and he's like, dude, turn on the TV. So the first plane had hit. I was like, dude, that's right there. And I went open my curtains in the room and we had a view of the skyline and everything. And I just remember watching the second plane fly in.
Hold on, you actually saw that?
I saw the second plane real time fly in.
Oh my gosh!
And,
I can't imagine that.
And then my wife at the time, my first wife, was pregnant with my son, and he was born in October, so she was real pregnant, at the point where she was going to the doctor like every week. And I remember trying to call her because our baby doctor was in Long Beach, and obviously that's a big port. And I just remember going, we're under attack and they're going to hit Long Beach. They're going to hit all these spots. And you couldn't dial out because all the phones were jammed and it was gnarly. I mean, it was gnarly. I remember going down the lobby and we're at a Hilton or something. And I remember there was just like probably 200 people in the lobby and it was dead silent. Like you could hear a pin drop, but 200 people staring at a TV watching like every second of what was unfolding. And then meanwhile outside it was I just remember white car after white car after white car, just zoom, 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 just all these like government vehicles just racing to the city. And it was, I'll tell you what, at the time I was really bummed about turning 30. And all of a sudden I was like, who gives a shit? Like I was just, couldn't believe what was happening. You know?
Yeah, it's still hard to believe.
Mm-hmm. And we've had this discussion before. You know, after that day,
I wouldn't do to turn 30 right now. By the way,
But after that day and the weeks following 9/11, we've never had a country more united than those weeks and the months following. And it's sad to see where we are now. But, you know, at that time, the country was united and we had one. Yeah. I mean, it was
100%.
So did you guys do shows after that?
We stayed on the road. I mean, dude, it was one of our biggest tours. We were,
it was at the height.
You know, we had production out and, you know, a truck and, you know, big crew and we had 6 weeks of shows, you know, on the books. And
did you cancel any shows or did you
just the first night in New York?
Yeah.
The second night was in DC, you know, who also got hit. And I remember our bus driver at the time was like, you know, we're not going. And I just remember we were like, we're going, dude. You know, if you're not driving, we're going to get somebody else to drive it, or one of us is going to drive it, but we're going. And we went to DC, and I remember we went on the radio station and just said, hey, you know, we're out here. You know, we live on the other side of the country, and we've got nowhere to go. You can't fly anywhere. You can't you know, so we're going to come and play. And we understand if you can't make the show, we'll come back and make it up. But in the meantime, if you're, because at that point, you know, after about 12 hours of watching that on the news, everybody was ready for something else.
Yeah.
That's right.
I remember even me, it was my birthday, and my band and crew guys finally said, dude, it's your birthday. We got to go. Can't stand here and watch the news all day. We're going to go to like TGI Fridays or whatever it was in the parking lot. And I remember we went in there, we're like, all right, let's just go think about something else. And then all the TVs were on it, and we're like, you can't escape it. But but we went and played the show at 930 Club in DC, and it was probably it was sold out, but it was probably half full. Mm-hmm. And then we just continued on. We just stayed out because we had nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And like you said, people still need that release. It's like, you know, we've talked about this before, and we were glued to the TV. Mm-hmm. We had a session that morning of 9/11, and of course, halfway through it, session's over. We're just watching.
I can't remember who the writer was we were on the session for, but the writer didn't want to stop, and I was like, "What do we do?" Yeah, I think we're supposed to not do the session at 10, but I don't not want to get paid for this session. So
what was amazing is how everybody, a day or two after that, everybody was like, "No, we have to continue because that's exactly
that's exactly right.
That's exactly what they want. They want us to shut down. They want us to quit everything we're doing, our way of life and everything. That was their whole intent, and everybody caught on to it pretty quickly and said no, and everybody doubled down.
Yeah. Well, and also to your point earlier, I remember being out traveling all across America in the weeks to follow. Mm-hmm. I've never seen so many American flags and so many people just being good to each other and just united. And, you know, after the shows, you know, during that tour, we didn't disappear to the dressing rooms after the show. Like right after we got off stage, we would usually just go right down into the crowd and just start hanging and talking to people. And
that's awesome.
It was the most united I think I've ever seen the country. Wow. I was since I've been alive.
We talk about, you know, this comes up a lot and how united we were and how not we are now, you know, and it's crazy to see how far that, you know, because it was one country united, it was great, and now it's just like, you know,
it's different.
It's different, you know.
Jeremy, we're like so over time, but I do want to ask you this because we talked a little bit about it.
Are we over time?
No, we don't have a time limit.
It's quite quick.
But we were talking about playing overseas and for some of the troops and stuff. And, you know, I know we've been lucky enough to do that, Tully and I. And you were saying you guys have been over and done some of that. Can you just talk a little bit about that and what that kind of meant to those guys and then what it meant to you as well?
Yeah. The first time we went out was probably 2004. And since then we've gone multiple times. We've been all over the world. It's pretty badass to think that we have dudes everywhere. and dudes and chicks.
Yeah.
But we've got the best military in the world, and we are everywhere. Mm-hmm. And we're in places that people don't even know we're at because we've been there.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's so humbling, and because we get paid to do it. The government has a budget for entertainment for the military, and we pay into that, so it's not like crazy. But when you actually get on the ground and you're actually face to face pressing the flesh with our troops, it's unbelievable, and it's such a blessing to be able to do that, and the gratitude that they show us for being there is almost uncomfortable.
That's a great word for it.
Because we're like, dude, we're here because we're grateful for what you're doing.
Yes.
And for you to say thank you for us to be here, like we would be doing this tonight anyway, somewhere. We're thrilled to be here with y'all, and you guys are the real rock stars.
Yeah,
that's
like,
right.
We're just holding guitars and playing music. Like what you guys do every day is insane.
And I'm not sure exactly what shows you did, but some of the ones we've done, you're in places where they're pretty remote. They can be remote, and you're always not playing for a ton of people. Like it generally in some of those places it's a smaller compared to what we're used to.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But the energy you get off of that crowd, a smaller.
I know
it's actually life-changing.
It really is
because the perspective you gain is overwhelming. And like you said, Tully, I think we were over there once, and it was either Christmas Eve or the 23rd.
Yeah.
We were over there before Christmas, and the gratitude that these guys showed us was, and I'm glad you said that word, it was almost uncomfortable because it's like, bro, you're the hero here. We're doing this for you.
Playing the bass. I mean, that's nothing compared to what,
We got to give it up to Mike Sadler tonight. He's here.
Yes, that's right.
He's in the room.
Yeah.
Fighter jet pilot.
I'm going to call him Blaze, by the way.
His new name's Blaze.
Former Air Force pilot. Thanks for your service.
No, he's Navy.
Why would you get that wrong?
My notes are wrong then.
And that was Wade's fault.
That's Wade's text.
No.
Anyway, Blaze, God bless you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
He owns Original Glory, started it, the beer company, one of our sponsors.
And we got
to toast to him.
To what you were saying too about the size of the crowds. I remember one time we were, they put you up in these base hotels.
Yes.
And they're not,
right.
It might have used to be a mental hospital. But now it's where they put, they put their guests. But
that's really funny.
And I remember we were playing this huge bass, and it was a huge, it was the service members and their families and their kids, and everyone. It was a big fireworks show and all this stuff that was going to happen. They were saying it was going to be about 3,000 people. So we all were out the night before. We're hanging out in the bar on the base with the
Yeah.
We woke up in the morning and the ships were gone. And they were literally like, okay, now you're going to be playing in front of 300 wives at the whatever small little gathering club was on, because they all got called out somewhere. It happened while we were asleep.
While you were sleeping.
They got a call. They hopped on the ships and they went somewhere.
Wow.
And it was times like that where you realize, like, dude, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and you're not allowed to, you can't like post something on your Instagram like, well, we were going to play in front of 3,000 people, but the boats are going somewhere. I don't know.
They took off due east.
Yeah, I know.
It was so cool that you got to witness that. You were there when it happened.
But it's unbelievable. On a dime, everything can change.
And that's why people that don't respect the military and what they're doing it's unacceptable to us and to me. To get over there. We're very blessed, to play. They're so appreciative of what you're doing. Thank you guys for doing that.
I think
seriously.
too, they just a taste of home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something a taste of normalcy, a taste of home. When I owned my bar in Orange County, we were maybe an hour and a half north of Camp Pendleton, down in San Diego.
Oh yeah. We did that.
And I put the word out to kind of, and word got out eventually. But my whole thing was, if you come to my bar and you're military, first round is always on the house. But if I'm there, your whole damn check's on the house. And so word got out. So I get a lot of these kids, and I say kids because they're kids.
Yeah.
And they would come up, and they would come up to hang out on the weekends and hang out at my bar. And I got to be friends with a lot of them. And I remember one night they were all getting ready to ship off to Afghanistan. And these were kids I got to become close with, and and I just remember telling them, like, hey, when you get somewhere where you're going, when you're safe and you can send me the quadrants, let me know. I want to, send y'all something. And I remember taking my kid when they sent me the stuff, we went and we bought cartons of cigarettes and beef jerky and nuts and candy and chewing gum and dip and just like whatever. And I'm thinking, LA Times and like People Magazine, just anything from like home. And we put together this big giant box, and it cost more to ship it than it did, to buy the stuff in it. But I remember we drop shipped it, and my kid threw he hand wrote a letter. He's 5 or 6. And he just wrote, put their names on it and wrote, thank you guys for what you're doing and blah, blah, blah. And put that in there. And I still keep in touch with those guys still to this day. And I remember one of the guys lived in Alabama and his house caught on fire. This is probably maybe 10 years ago. And he had a house fire and it burned probably 3/4 of his house down. When he went back, and he got to go back the next day. And one of the things he found that didn't burn was that letter from my kid. And he took a picture of it and he sent it to me, and he was just like, dude, you don't know how much this means to me. I'm like, dude, you don't know how much that you don't know how much that means to me. That's insane. One, that you kept that letter, but like, holy shit.
Wow. Yeah, what a story.
That's unbelievable. Hey, let's talk about real quick, Lit, what's going on right now. You got some new songs. Sick of Me Too is one of the new ones that's out. You guys have new songs. Tell people what's happening.
Yeah. So we got a ton of stuff coming up in 25. New bunch of new songs, ton of shows. Yeah, man, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing,
Hell yeah, man.
We're very hyped about the new tunes.
Hey, and go hear these guys live. Like, look at the tour schedule. I'm not kidding you. It's one of the best live bands you're going to hear. They kill it. You need high energy, and it's, we're huge fans.
I'm going.
Well, we're not fans of anybody.
That's a great point, Tully.
Yeah, they hate everybody.
Seriously, we are. These guys are the real deal. We've looked up to these guys and modeled our show after watching these guys play. Like it's.
Wow, thanks, man.
It is high energy, but also great band. Like Kevin, bass player, he's badass. Like he's great. Like AJ and Jeremy, and the whole thing is.
It's not that hard, dude. It's 4 strings. I mean,
hey, see, Kevin.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you,
Jeremy. That really cut to the core. Kevin, I'm sorry, Kevin. Kevin's out there. That really hurt. On that note, everybody, we're going to sign off.
How about some turkey and humble pie?
Yeah. Oh, this is Jeremy, everybody.
Honestly,
no joking.
I'm big fans of everybody here at this table, and man, it's an honor to be hanging with y'all.
Thanks for
here.
We're so thankful for you. You're a good friend. You're a good human being.
Yep.
You and your brother are great artists. We're thankful that you're here. Seriously. Yeah. Hey, before we leave, give us a Christmas movie. What do you watch? Give us one Christmas movie that you and your wife have to watch.
Every Christmas day we watch 4 Christmases.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite. We watch, we start with Christmas Vacation. That's why we're still kind of doing stuff.
Gotta
4 Christmases, you got to shut up and watch it. And then we watch Bad Santa.
Bad Santa.
Billy Bob.
Bad Santa. You got to do it. All right. Happy holidays, awesome. Neil.
No, up yours.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
You got something?
No, I got nothing.
Absolutely. Hey, this is Try That in a Small Town Podcast. We're thankful for Jeremy Popoff being here from the Patriot Mobile Studios. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Make sure to follow along, subscribe, share, rate the show, and check out our merch at trythatinasmalltown.com.